Morning, everybody. Hope you're all relatively well. I can only hope for relatively these days with all the viruses going on.
What about you?
I have a migraine, so I'm working through it. I just want to say that, let's see, the 28th, is it the 28th? So we have 3 more days of Reba. And December 1 is good old TRESA. It hasn't come into effect, and it's good old TRESA already. What we're going to do today, we're going to go through the bulletins. Rico has issued countless bulletins and asking the brokers to teach it. It's going to be pretty dry today because a lot of the stuff I say we collectively, we already do. We're going to talk about ethical behavior, the way we treat our colleagues, our responsibility out in the field. But because it's written into the new act, we have to teach it. Okay. So we're going to try to move along as quickly as possible. And I will hand out the papers. So you are starting at bulletin number 1, and that is professional contact. Was there any leftovers? Carrie, can you see that bulletin? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, good. Actually, may I grab that from you? Because I can't see his screen as well. I can grab it. Okay, professional contact. I would say that most of everybody here is in the professional contact mode already. Okay. So they talk about acting with integrity, honesty, good faith, and courtesy. I almost never. I mean, I may have one call a year, not even that, about if there's any issues with my salespeople. So I can say that we're already in that game. Okay. We're going to skip to the second page. Conscientious and competent service. And that's what we're here today about, is the competent. It's all our duties to learn the new trust, whether we like it or not. I mean, I personally would love to stay in REBA, but it's not what I'd like to do. So we have to move into TRESA. And in order to do that, we have to learn the act inside and out in order to act professionally out in the field. It's about protecting our client's interests, assuming we have a client. So remember, client, SRP, self-represented parties. Those are our only options now. No more customer. Okay. Okay. So let's go over to the next page. Avoiding conflicts of interest. If you have any conflict of interest at all, you have any knowledge of a property, you have any interest in a property, related to anybody with the property, you have to disclose it. Okay. It's something we've been doing forever. But again, it's part of the new act. Confidentiality, client, 100% confidentiality. SRP, no confidentiality. They want to tell you something, God bless, you love it, and you're going to blab yourself to your clients. Okay. Self-represented parties, here we go. The item number 3. Agents are not permitted to provide services, opinions, or advice to self-represented parties in respect of a trade. Agents must be cautious not to encourage SRPs to rely on their knowledge, skill, or judgment. And this includes not encouraging or advising a person to be a self-represented party. Before engaging with someone who's self-represented in a transaction, you have to explain what it is. You have to give them the RICO guide, number 1. And you also have to give them the disclosure to self-represented parties, which I'm going to ask you to have a copy of. Ed, do you want to pass those around too? Take one and pass it out. So if somebody wants to be an SRP, after you've told them all the horrible things about SRPs, first of all, you have to give them the RICO information guide so they can make an informed decision. And if they say they want to do SRPs, then you have to give them this. This form that I'm giving you is for the designated, it's from a designated representative. There's 2 forms, brokerage and DRs. Because we're not dealing in brokerage any longer, this brokerage is not. This is the form you will use. From a designated representative to an SRP, that's what that form is. Okay. So if you get somebody who wants to go wild and be self-represented, do the information guide and this form. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Take one pass on.
I better take one.
Morning, Zach. You're in detention later on. See me after school. If there's not enough to do sharesies, okay, guys?
I have more extra here.
Thanks, Andrew. Zach Meister.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Duties to comply. This is a 1.2. The legislation makes the brokerage and the salespeople, brokers, a duty to comply. Talks about your duty as real estate agents. The duty of the brokerage. Our job is to teach it, ensure that you understand it, and you put it into practice. And is oversight. Our job is oversight. So all the forms that you hand in all the time to Soph or to Dee or whomever, is our job is oversight. Okay? To provide service. Broker of record, that's Mr. James. So now, let me just deviate for a second. You know how some of us get together in groups and we discuss our listings and our clients and our whatever. When you're a designated representative, you really can't do that. And the reason you can't do that is I'm in a group with Debbie and Liz, and I'm talking about a property I've listed. My clients have bought something else, so they got to sell this one. And then a buyer walks in. I don't want to do multiple. So I want to say to my friends, Debbie or Liz, I want you girls to be, one of you to be my DR. But they can't be my DR because I already blabbed my face to them. I've told them things that I should have told them. So here we talk about confidentiality. So all those little meetings that everybody has, get-togethers with your friends, or you're talking at the water cooler, which we don't have, about your clients.
The
hallways, parking lot. You have to be, if you want to talk in generalities, that's one thing. But as far as addresses, what they've done, where they're going, how much they can spend, that's all information that should be confidential. Because we're all DRs. We've always been working for ourselves as far as Rev Canada goes. But now you're working for yourself in the sense that the consumer will be your utmost interest, not your colleagues. Okay? So when you get together in your groups and you have a chit chat with your friends or whatever, you have to be conscientious of what you're going to say to each other. Okay? So that's where it comes with talking to the broker of record. And Julio and myself, you're going to have to be cautious in what you say to us, because DRs. So if Debbie and Liz are DRs in the same transaction, they both work for West. Debbie calls me, there's a problem with the deal. I can only give her general information, believe it or not. Yeah, because Liz is also in my brokerage, and she's representing another client. Does that sound somewhat clear? Thanks, Tara.
So any
Go ahead.
multiple calls that you make to Carole, you may want to just drop it down to one.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No.
I'm joking.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is that ordinarily I will get right into that deal with you. Like I talk it with you, I carry it through from beginning to end. You know, I know everything about your client. So I'm going to need to know less about your client going forward. Okay. Because like I said, if there's two agents in this office and they're DRs, and we're all DRs, and they're in the same transaction, okay, I should not know more about that client from Debbie than I would from Liz. Okay. So just a cautious word when you're speaking to myself or Jim or to Julio. Don't be probably as specific. I mean, for a lot of you, we talk about your clients, your transactions. I know your client's motivation, they've bought or they sold or whatever. So once it comes in December 1st, you're going to have to limit what you tell me. Okay.
But this is only, this is only about the transaction we're going to have here, two agents, right? If I'm doing some with someone else.
Exactly. If you do with someone else, exactly. If you do with somebody else, not a problem.
Yeah.
But if you have a listing
Yeah,
You don't know that you may eventually have somebody from this office representing a buyer.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
So what happened
Go B.
previously would be that potentially we'd share like in terms of learnings and doing like what I call case
Management.
scenario management, whatever. But now, and what we would do, we would share, but then if there was ever an opportunity where someone would receive a buyer client from myself, let's say, as an example, then all communications would end there. And when you're doing the actual negotiations and the offer and everything, like there's no discussion between the two agents. You're saying now, even before that happens, all communication needs to cease.
No, I never said all communications. The generalities we can do. Specifics we can't do.
Generalities about the property I'm listing, for instance.
In general. If I were to be listed a property today and this happened, what would be the case? You could say to me. But don't give me specifics. You might do a listing, a buyer walks in or from a sign, whatever, and M's your DR. Okay. An ambulance that comes to me for advice on something. Again, only generalities, because I'm not supposed to know more about your client. You guys are the keeper of the information as DRs. You are you're wrapped in that confidentiality blanket totally. And I'm supposed to, Julio, Jim, and I, the brokerage is supposed to be not as vested in that. We're not as vested. We're not held to that confidentiality because two people in my brokerage may be DRs.
Okay,
On that
it's
same
just a
transaction.
definition for some people of the specifics and the details versus generalities is very different. It's very subjective. So I'm thinking, like, can we just like say to you, if we're having a situation where we need some advice from you, in a scenario of blah, 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 without giving addresses or names, we could be detailed, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
In a scenario. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without giving me the actual
the
facts.
address. And
Without giving me the
names of people.
facts. You can give me the
Yeah.
scenarios.
For example, you can say, let's say, oh, my clients, they have to reduce the price, they can sell, they can afford to pay the mortgage. And
If I were to have a listing and this happened, what could
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah.
Exactly.
We
Okay.
can discuss with the lawyer, for instance, can we? Or-
Sure, if you can get a lawyer to discuss with you, yeah, you can do all those things.
The lawyer wants to be paid.
Yeah.
Well, to get the lawyer who wants to.
Okay, let's move on, guys. Okay, page 2, compliance. You have to comply with the act. And that's why we're going through all these bulletins and we're going to be going through all the bulletins. So you understand the act so you can comply. If you don't have comprehension, you can't comply. You can't obstruct somebody. If somebody wants to make a complaint to RICO, you cannot say, I will give you $1,000. I will pay for your moving. I will paint your house. I will babysit your kids. If you don't make that complaint to RICO, even though I've done something not RICO, please don't make the complaint and I will do whatever to stop you from doing that. You cannot do that. Okay. I don't know anybody here who's ever done that. I've seen cases at RICO where just those things happen. They're threatening behavior. Usually it's threatening behavior. If you make a file to RICO, something's going to happen. Okay. I know we don't have that case here. Legislation. Okay. We're going to move on. Notes 1-3. I know we're rolling through these because I think they're pretty boring and dry, but I'm supposed to teach them. Okay, sorry. So you're going to get this. It's called Notice Requirements, Bulletin 1.3. If there's any change in your address, including your email address, believe it or not, notify RICO. So when you change your email addresses, you're supposed to notify RICO. Okay?
But if you have multiple emails.
When you trade in. Any change to your application? When you applied, you're every 2 years, you do all that stuff on your application. Any change to that, you have to notify RICO. Termination of employment, again, letter of termination has to have the date, your name, your RICO number, and the effective date of your termination. Then they talk about any disclosures to your brokerage. You know, if you get in trouble with the law, you have unpaid parking tickets, any judgments, and so on and so forth. It's supposed to let the brokerage know. Okay. I'm teaching the theory, guys, so I know that's not exactly, if you have a parking ticket, you're going to come and tell me. Any changes in your address? And the rest is about trust accounts. You know, the trust accounts are sacred in, well, not just in real estate, for lawyers as well. Any shortfalls in trust account is up to the brokerage to make it up. And they don't care where we get it. They'll give you about 24 hours to make it up to your trust account, or they will come and lock your doors. Okay. So the law is the new act is much more stringent. It's more stringent on the realtors, on the protection of the consumer. Okay, we're whipping those RICO information guide. Here, we're going to get into meat and potatoes here. RICO information guide. Okay. So, before providing any services or assistance, or agents need to do one thing: RICO information guide. That lovely 12 pages. You can either do it electronically, which is the wisest thing to save on being a paper monster, or you can do it in paper. The act does not say you need acknowledgement, but on the back of the guide, as Debbie pointed out at the last meeting, they've inserted a page for acknowledgement on the guide. It's to protect you. Okay. Also, on the working with a realtor, the new, I think it's 812, the new working with a realtor. Again, you're going to have acknowledgement of the RICO information guide. They're all about this RICO information guide. Okay. They're fixated about it. So you need to give it to the consumer. However, you give it to them electronically or paper, I don't care, but they need to get it. Give a copy of the guide to the prospective client or SRP and explain the contents. So make sure you understand the guide. Agents are expected to provide the guide to a prospective client before an agreement is entered into with the brokerage. Again, theory. How you do your paper is up to you in the real world. I know a lot of us don't do our paper until, right, currently under REBA, until the offer. Okay, so when they're signing, before they sign the offer, they're doing work with the realtor, the BRA, or whatever else they have to sign. RICO has always said they don't like that, and they still don't like that. How you choose to do your paper is up to you. Okay, but as long as at the end of the day you have your paper and you have it in a file to protect yourself. Okay. The purpose of the RICO information guide, again, protecting the consumers, to give them a choice. Do you want to be a client or do you want to be a self-represented party? They're displaying the contents. Record keeping. There's no requirement under the legislation for an agent to obtain acknowledgement that the guide was provided and explained. However, in the event of a complaint is made to RICO, the onus will be on the agent to prove. Okay, so it's all about keeping track of your stuff. Online tools to facilitate the sharing of the guide is, like I said, you can get it online. Okay, but you have to give it out, and to protect yourself, make sure they sign somewhere that they got it. They're going to sign the working with a realtor if you get to that stage. But if you don't get to that stage, the actual guide has at the back an acknowledgement. Okay, it's really important. Can I say again, they're really about this RICO information guide, giving the consumer the choice of client versus SRP. I would recommend that you would try to facilitate the consumer into a client position versus an SRP. But at the end of the day, it's their choice. Okay, it's going to make your life a lot easier for a client than having an SRP. Okay. Representation. Okay, more fun. You see, I've marked up some of these because it's the one I've marked up. These all 2.2s. I've killed a lot of trees. Actually, the office has killed a lot of trees printing all this.
Double-sided.
So yeah, it's just hard when you're going through it for everybody looking at it, double-sided. Anyway, it's better for the trees. Okay, this is representation. Brokerage representation designated multiple rep. So we're not doing any brokerage. West Realty Group is not doing any brokerage representation. The brokerage is still responsible for you. Okay? We are not in a representation situation with the consumer, the client, assuming it's a client. If you end up in doing both ends, you're the listing salesperson and you are the buyer salesperson. As DRs, that is truly multiple. There's only two forms of multiple for us here. And that will be when we do both ends ourselves. If I'm doing the listing and I have a buyer, that's multiple. The other time that we can be in multiple here is when the same DR has multiple buyers on the same transaction. So Debbie has a listing and I have more than one buyer on Debbie's listing. That I'm in multiple. Okay. But if I have a listing and Debbie has a buyer, that is no longer multiple. That's why you have to be cautious of what you say in the office to each other. So if I hear Debbie talking about her clients and I end up with a buyer, I'm going to blab all that to my clients. Okay. So just be cautious of what you say going forward.
Carole, what if I have a listing and I've got 20 offers? That's not considered multiple?
Are you representing the buyer? Any buyer?
No. If you had 20, it's multiple offers. It's never been multiple representation.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, it's just multiple offers,
Yeah.
not multiple representation. You're confusing agency with offers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Paul?
Carole, if there is a listing completely in a different office and they have a, let's say, offer there, and you have two buyers, how do you call?
That's multiple.
That's multiple.
You yourself have two buyers.
Yeah.
That's as multiple. Okay.
All in Anna one and Ametha has one. We're no longer in multiple because we're in DR.
Absolutely. You're your own person going down the road. Brokerage has oversight and we have to provide services. Okay. But that's why that we're not supposed to, you guys are held to confidentiality. That's why you can't tell us specifics. I say us, the brokerage I'm speaking about. Specifics. You can say, I have a buyer who may have this situation. Okay. But I don't want to know anything more, and no more does Julio or Jim. Okay. So you're totally self-absorbed in that consumer. They're your client. Designated representation. Under a designated representation agreement, the DR identified in the agreement is responsible for representing the best interests of the client. The brokerage and the other agents employed by the brokerage must treat the client in an objective and impartial manner. Okay, that's our only obligations to that client. They're yours and yours 100%. Multiple rep. Under multiple representation for brokerage, we're not doing, but a designated representation, as I said, the DR for a seller client and a buyer client in the same trade, that is multiple. And or the agent can have more than one buyer. That's multiple. Okay.
Carole, are there any ramifications if we've decided this brokerage will be using DR?
Mhm.
If the other brokerage is not, if they're using both, or are there any ramifications that we need to be aware of?
You mean if the other brokerage is using brokerage?
Yeah.
All their salespeople / brokers are under the same obligation, whereas here we're not. So I don't think so, Liz.
But some of the bulletins say that if they cannot maintain the undivided loyalty, that then they have to refer to any other brokerage. So
What does that mean?
Say that again.
So some of the bulletins say that, so on their brokerage representation, you have undivided loyalty to the client, one client. So now if there's two clients for the same trade, they can no longer provide undivided loyalty to that. And even says that it will be recommended that one client, if they're unable to have designated representation, that it would be okay to have another brokerage deal with that person, that with that particular client, but we don't know what other brokerages will be doing.
Okay, I just wondered.
But that wouldn't affect us.
Yeah.
That wouldn't affect us.
So we're doing an offer night and we, in multiple representation, if we have someone in our brokerage putting in an offer, we could disclose that to everyone else.
No,
No, for multiple.
that's not multiple.
If,
Yeah, only if you're doing both ends, it's multiple.
I'm saying in the past, like.
Oh, in the past, right now, in today,
So for DR, we don't.
exactly.
To her question, in his scenario, you should know if the other broker is doing what we do, or if they're under the umbrella, because
That-
a multiple offer, you have to tell them that they are in a multiple, right?
That will be on the confirmation of cooperation and representation. If knowing how their representation is.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You should know, because you could have, let's say, 5 offers and 2 are for another broker, but they're not doing what we do. They will be multiple, and we have to tell them that they are.
Okay, so yeah, I understand what you're saying. If the buyer's brokerage, there's more than one salesperson for that brokerage with offers, is that correct?
And they are not.
Even today, quite often, the listing salesperson doesn't tell you. If there's 30 offers on the table and you have an offer and Liz has an offer, I don't know, hardly ever does the listing salesperson tell you you're in multiple. Do they? I don't know. I've never been told I've been in multiple. Is anybody else?
Well, exactly.
But that's-
what I'm saying, right?
but
Something
it's-
happens.
In theory, you're supposed to tell them. That's right, in theory. But I don't know the reality is.
Well, talking about our case, let's say I have a listing
Mhm.
and I have a buyer and it's not multiple. First of all, I'm the designated, I have a buyer, but do we somewhere in the end, because you must be kidding that you don't discuss with your wife the details or something. Is the RICO has any issues with that we are related somehow, or there's nothing about this?
Confidentiality.
Okay.
Confidentiality. So again, can I say,
Disclosure.
That's
Nobody believes it, of course. But that's fine.
you would have to disclose that you are related to the listing agent,
Okay.
okay?
And that's it. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
There's a new form for that, yeah.
Yeah, you have-
There's a new form for that?
There's a new
Well-
form. There's a new form for that.
it's a newly done form, but I mean, it's the same thing that we have now.
It's like
I mean,
346.
We've already always had to disclose if Anna was on one side of a deal and Paul was on the other side, that were related. That's,
We can be in this situation very soon on December 1st, because I have a new listing. It's only on my name for lease. And, on the 1st, I'm going to get the new guide to present to this person. Paul is going to show on the 1st, it was, from, Realtor.ca, the lead, called us, and, he has to disclose, right, that he works with me.
he's related to you.
Yeah.
He's related to you.
And he has to give them a guide as soon
Yeah,
as. he
absolutely.
meets them, or just before or something.
So I hope that
That they
on
need to
Friday,
sign. And what if they don't sign it? Could he still show it?
Rico says okay, Rico says you have to get the guide. Okay, wait a second, stop. The legislation does not say that the guide has to be signed. We are getting the guide signed to protect ourselves. When you come to the working with a realtor, that's when they have to sign. The legislation says it has to be signed. For the guide, the legislation says that the guide does not have to be signed. There is an acknowledgement piece in the guide, as Debbie said, for signature. They've put that in just to slide it in to protect us. God help me.
So that's why it's a good idea that you email it. That way,
Yes.
at least you can prove what you said.
Absolutely. I will definitely be emailing the guide. I will not be giving any of the guides in paper. But just sending a guide, It's just easier, and there's a tracking system, and you don't have to worry
Yeah,
about
but
it.
the thing is, what if it's a fake email, which a lot of people do?
That's not your problem. That's not your
Oh,
problem.
So are they gonna say,
You will have the proof that you've sent it.
All you need is the proof. It doesn't matter if they got it or not. The proof that you sent it to the email that they provided, as long as it doesn't kick back and use Mailer Demon, you're okay. Wait, one second one at a
I
time.
know,
It says to explain.
Ladies and
content.
gents, shush,
It says
and-
to give the copy and then explain the content, so if you just send it in an email.
you're still supposed to explain the contents.
Yeah, so long as you-
You're not proving the, and you don't have to prove the explanation. You have to prove the receipt. But it's your responsibility. Can I say what I'm teaching you is law or the act legislation? What actually happens? How many people explain the listing agreement? In reality, I do too. But I mean, majority, I would say realtors don't. How many people explain the BRA? I do too, but most people don't.
Well, that would, okay, because most of you learned under ORIA, we learned under Humber. And that it was a big thing when we were at Humber, that you have to explain all the documents.
Well, you've always had to explain it. It's not a new thing. That's not new. Ever since the
If you
Christ
explain
was
it
a
all, you
cowboy,
wouldn't
you
get the
had to
listing.
explain. You are responsible for explaining to the consumer always. How you frame it again, bingo, is
I didn't get it.
Brunetsky. How you frame it is up to you. I said there's the legislation, the rules, and how you do it, manage your business is your call. But they have to get the guide, and you have to prove it, and you're supposed to explain it. Okay? Obviously, if you're sending electronically, you're supposed to have a conversation. Okay?
But you could do like a short summary of the guide in the body of the email too, right? Make sure it's.
How you do it is up to you. When you meet them on showings, you can blither on with it. Okay?
Walk with the boy kid.
A body kit. Oh my
Not a
God.
bad idea.
Hopefully not in a snowstorm out in front of a house, trying to get them to acknowledge receipt of the 12-page thing that they haven't read.
Do you feel comfortable with multiple representation for us, for DRs? Okay. And again, we're going back to that whole commission reduction thing too, I want to say, because you are working only for your, whomever that person is, that client, that group of clients. That whole commission reduction like we do now with offers, don't have to do any of that anymore. Okay. It's a whole different concept. That is the way we're going to handle our clients. Liz?
Sorry.
We'll go.
In the past, I've always provided a document to when I have a listing
Mhm.
that says, the commission is what it is, but if I bring the buyer, the commission will be something less.
Yes.
Are you saying we can't do
Oh,
that?
no, we can do that. We're going to get to that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we can do that 100%. But what Rico says now is exactly what you're saying. If there's any instances where the commission's going to change, and we're going to go through that. So
Oh,
let's
sorry, I thought.
let's rock and roll through that now. Representation agreements.
Which one is that?
That's 2-3.
UDRs. And we don't have to disclose it. There could be a situation where one DR is getting a referral from the other DR. It's a pronunciation. I can now he represents them to a referral, and we're not disclosing that. It's, I think this would seem a little sketchy and backwards.
That's a good question.
I think anything that
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. You know what? My gut tells me, yeah, that should be disclosed.
anything that gives you money, you have to disclose in one of the bulletins. Yeah, let me find it here.
That my gut tells me you have to disclose that
I hope so.
because
Before.
Danielle's got a listing. She gets a buyer. She's going to do multiple. She calls you. Do you want to be the DR? And you're like, yeah. And she says, I want you to pay me a referral.
So 3.1 disclosures,
We're not there yet.
but there's one,
Okay.
3.1 will.
Okay. So in representation. This is what your agreements. Representation agreements are with clients to provide services, and representation must be clearly, comprehensively, and prominently set out. The date the agreement takes effect and the date it expires. Now dates have to be initialed, expiry dates have to be initialed. We're going to get to that. The method to determine the amount of any remuneration payable. The identification of any circumstances in which the remuneration might change. This is Liz. So I have a listing. I'm taking it at 5 points. If I represent the buyer and the seller myself in multiple, the remuneration is 4%. 100%. That's going to still be disclosed. And that's what they're saying. If there's any change to the original remuneration, you have to say that right up front. Okay. So, which is what we're doing now anyways. Okay. Pretty much.
And then a lot of listings now will say something like the co-op commission will be reduced by 1% if the
Listing agent shows it.
if the listing agent shows it and then arrives with an offer carried by another agent.
That would have to be in the
That's
listing.
even enforceable.
I don't think that's on the listing. I think
That would have to be,
I've seen.
it is. It is
on the listing, on the.
yes, they are.
request.
So what happens typically is city agents send their people up north and say to the north people, oh, they tell their clients, get the listing agent up north because I don't want to travel to Muskoka.
Yeah.
But then the listing agent shows it and then they get annoyed when the Toronto agent comes up and does the offer. That's where that all came about.
Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
enforceable?
If it's on the listing agreement, it's enforceable.
So does that have to now be somewhere in the listing agreement that we sign with, where they talk about?
Yeah, that should have always been in the listing agreement.
Is it enforceable if it's just in the brokerage remark and not in the listing agreement? It has to be in the listing.
Well, the only way to find that out is to make a complaint, to bring the list, because nobody ever sees the listing agreement, right? Only the brokerage. Now the only person that's going to see that listing agreement is you, the DR, and it'll be the front desk and the admin. Okay, and
So let's say if this, they don't put in listing agreement, but there is on the listing in the brokerage remarks, it doesn't count if it is not in the agreement.
so let me say this.
Or the listing is in the agreement the same.
So as Julie will attest to, when the listing brokerage gets their commission, and no matter what, they're going to control that commission. I'm going to tell you that. Even though you may be 100% right, trying to get that commission back out of the listed brokerage is nearly impossible. You have to go through TREB to make a complaint. RICO doesn't deal with commissions, first of all. You gotta go TREB, you gotta go to a hearing. Yeah. So whether it's enforceable or not, the only way to do it is a complaint process to find out. Okay. But I would say if there's any instances you may see changes in the commission, whether it be cooperating or listing, total, has to be on the listing agreement, which is nothing different than we should be doing today. Okay, that's nothing different. Okay,
So when they bring an offer,
when
an offer comes in,
uh-huh.
and we must still have some sort of form for cooperation and representation.
There still is a confirmation of cooperation
So,
representation.
If you're lucky enough to recognize the fact that the buyer is somebody that you showed the property to, even though they're coming with another agent, what would you do? Pencil it in?
Yes.
Well, you would cross out what they've put down their 2.5%. And put down your 1.25% or whatever it is.
Yeah. Then you have to get everybody to sign that.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's the only way it's enforceable. Really.
Confirmation of cooperation is supposed to be the document that commission stands on. But I've seen listing brokerages not stand on the list on the confirmation of cooperation. They'll tell you they're standing on the listing, that little listing that we all get.
Yeah.
They stand on that. But really what they're supposed to be standing on is the confirmation of cooperation, because all parties for the commission have to agree to it. Okay, then? All parties to the commission have to agree to it. That's why everybody has to sign that confirmation of cooperation. When all parties don't sign the listing. Okay, but can I say again, when that listing brokerage gets a hold of the commission from the lawyer, the deposit, wherever they're going to get it, good luck trying to squeeze out what you think should be right. Because I remember when Julio came to me once before he was back with West,
No, we had a situation where the confirmation of confirmation of cooperation was all initial and signed, and our argument was that superseded the MLS listing,
and it does.
right? But some brokerages will say
No.
no, right? And you're like, "Are you kidding?" And they said no.
And
that
good luck
was
trying
that.
to get the money from them.
So are you gonna argue about the small difference that was? But I mean, we're talking about 30%, right? That's a huge chunk, right? So
Yeah.
So their claim was, well, you tried to sneak in a commission change, and you didn't tell the agent, right? But you're like, but everybody initialed it, so I'm not sneaking it in. It's initialed by everybody.
But the agent's stupid enough to sign it, that's their problem. But I mean, can I say again, the management or the broker of record or whomever can say, too bad. Fight it. And as most of us who've ever been to Trev for commission issues, yeah, it doesn't always work out that well. Okay. So, yeah, okay.
Will you win if you fight or?
I've been there twice for myself. I've lost both of them, even though I was right.
But in that case,
Again, it depends on who you get for, everything is about who you get. Anna, it depends on who you get for a panel. Panels are members of TREB. And when you go before them, let me tell you something, it can be very erratic.
but isn't that something that the lawyer should?
It's not about the lawyers. Commission, once the seller's lawyer sends the commission to the brokerage, the listing agreement says the brokerage has all that commission, and we're supposed to dish out according to how much we've offered on the listing, accordingly. It doesn't always work out like that. And the only way to fight it, I'm telling you, is go to TREB, and then you got to take your shot at who you're going to get for a panel. And some of them are not cute. Same at Rico, I'll tell you the truth. You can get a good panel at Rico and a not so good panel. They're members, and now we have members of the public at Rico on the panels, and they don't understand how the industry works. I mean, no more should they, because they're members of the public, and some of the decisions come out of there are, not always proper. Okay. So it's best if you can avoid those guys.
And also those kind of small stupid things like somebody just put, okay, there, and minus $250 for the marketing fees. Is this, you can cross it out and do it, yes? Like, I mean, this is that the part of this, a deal or something? Or?
Again, when I'm doing it on the buyer side, I added $250 to my commission.
Yeah, I would do.
But again, if the listing brokerage says, no, that's not working out. We're taking the $250. I have to go to TREB to fight right for my $250. Okay. Listing brokerage
Is it worth
controls the
the
money.
5 for $250?
It's not.
Probably not.
If you want to make a point, God bless, make a point. But again, you got to go before a panel, and you may or not. Yeah, you don't always get the money. Okay.
Carole, sometimes only in the MLS thing, in the 2.5% minus 250 marketing. So what happened in that case?
I know when I do my confirmation, I put 200. I put my 2.5% plus 250. Plus 250.
Yeah.
Would that be
And if the agent doesn't catch it, good for me.
Yeah.
If the listing brokerage is not so good for me, they don't want to pay me out, I'm screwed. Okay, because I'm not going to fight for the 250 in a hearing. Okay, but there's a lot, quite often, depends on who you're dealing with. The listing agent may not catch it, and their office may not catch it. But there are some offices that are like, say, scrutinized with a fine tooth comb.
But by you saying MLS plus the 250,
I negate their negative.
well, no, you're actually, if that holds, you're adding the 250.
Yeah.
No, I'm adding the 250. They're taking it away from me, and I'm asking for it back.
No, I know.
But it's true. It could be you're adding 250.
No, they're taking
You're taking away
250 from me.
and then you're just supposed to put.
Or you can cross it out.
Back.
But according to the listing, they're taking it away. But according to the listing, they're taking it away.
Yeah, I understand that, but.
And I'm adding it back.
If you're adding it, you just have to just not include.
You can do it any way you want. But I say again, the listing brokerage says to you, that's what the listing says, and that's what we're doing. We don't care what the confirmation says. Too bad for you.
Yeah.
And good luck fighting the listing brokerage. It's not that easy. Some of them, you can talk to their broker record and managers. Other ones, you might as well just talk to the wall. It's like talking to their agents. Okay, they're just as dumb. Okay. Representation agreements. Okay, so page 2, effective date, and expiry date. The agreement must clearly state the effective date and the expiry date of all agreements. The expiry date of an agreement must be displayed prominently on the front page of the agreement, which it's always been. And the agents must ensure that the client initials the agreement next to the expiry date. So again, there's I don't know why, but there's some issues about people not understanding when the listing expires. And so now they want the consumer to initial beside the expiry date. Some of you guys, I know that you get the price initials, you get the commencement expiry date initial. Good for you. And they're just putting the legislation for the expiry date.
I think that might be more of the DRA because a lot of complaints are, they call you and I'm a listing agent, they call me, I show them the property and then they want to and I get them to sign a DRA and I don't tell them that I'm signing them up for 3 months. So this way, if they initial it, they know that you're signing up for 3 months. But then you're stuck with me to show you the property for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
I think it's more on the DRA side than.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's part of it, but also with the listing, people don't understand sometimes that they've signed up for a 60-day listing. I mean, some people express, I only want a 30-day listing, and you got to tell them you can't go MLS. So when you sign them up for a 60-day listing and they're like, oh, we don't want 60 days. Wow, you're stuck with me.
They relist it and extend the expiry. So you have an offer date, and 7 days later, they relist it, the expiry is pushed 7 days.
Yeah. So now I guess Rico's had a lot of complaints with expiry dates. I never had one. Okay. And a method for determining the amount of remuneration payable. The agreement must clearly identify the method that we use to determine the remuneration payable, which is our commission to the brokerage. For example, it may provide that remuneration payable is a fixed amount, a percentage of the sale price, or a combination of the two. Okay. Again, it's nothing different than we have today. Most times we'll see a percentage of a sale price. Sometimes we'll see a flat rate. And sometimes you'll see a combination of the two. The next page is something I didn't understand. If anybody can understand it and explain it to me, that'd be grateful. Page 3 of 6. Halfway down the page, you'll see I have a question mark. Agreement. So this is circumstances in which remuneration payable may change, which is what you and I just talked about, Liz. But this part, agreement with the seller client. It should be clear to the seller client that they are paying for what they are paying for, the services and representation they will receive from the brokerage. The amount payable, if any, to compensate the buyer for their brokerage fees should not be expressed as a portion of the amount payable to the seller's brokerage for the services the seller client is receiving. Is that not confusing? Does that not say that it shouldn't be a 5% total and 2.5% to the cooperating? Is that what that says? Or am I wrong?
No, I think
what does it say?
I think what it says is.
What does it mean?
Our brokerage gets 2.5%. The buyer gets 2.5%. But any of the marketing things that you do only comes out of the seller's brokerage. So you know that minus $250 for marketing. I think that's negating that.
Is that what that is?
Have us pay the $250 for your marketing fees. That's what I think that might be.
I'm not sure.
It doesn't specify anything though. But
No,
that's
but
an
it's
example.
saying to compensate the buyer for their brokerage fee should not be expressed as a portion.
It should be clear to the seller client what they are paying for the services and representation they will receive from the brokerage. So it's services and representation.
Yeah. The amount payable, if any, to compensate the buyer for their brokerage fees should not be expressed. So as a portion of the amount payable for the seller's brokerage. So how they're saying it, we need $250 for marketing. I think that's what that's.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Because a lot of them are doing that now. Minus $250 for marketing fees and,
Yeah, it's just a scam. You're right. Nobody's paying us for driving our buyers around, Terry.
Sure. How do you, operate the situation where you're doing a narrative appraisal report or you're doing a report for a client
Mhm.
with a fee for service, but it's not brokerage or commission?
I think that's exactly what we talked about. I think it happens more in commercial than residential because in residential, the real estate agent usually pays for the service. Like you don't charge a client anything, but if you do, it should be okay.
Which is no more than it is today.
Well,
Because there's nothing in the
but it's
act
not
that talks about
specified.
this.
It's like if you're asking a client or a consumer to pay for something, it has to be in writing.
Yeah.
So it's no more than we do today.
Before was implicit,
Yeah,
now
but
they
it's
want you to
not
put on
a-
paper.
Wait a sec, Tara, go.
Not a commission. It's a fee.
So if I'm paying you for the,
Service.
if I'm,
You hired me to evaluate your house and you're prepared to pay me X dollars for a full narrative appraisal.
But there is a.
so, that is, so let me tell you, Rico, let me tell you. The access.
Yes,
The access that any fees paid have to go through the brokerage.
yeah, correct. I agree
Call them,
with
you can call them commission, you call them a fee, I don't care what you call them.
that. Okay,
Any money received is supposed to go through the brokerage.
yes, that's fair.
So that's what I call it.
Yes,
You don't call it commission, you can call it commission, you can call it a fee, it doesn't matter what you call it. But as salespeople, we're not to receive money outside the brokerage.
correct.
Okay, is I answer that, Terry?
Yes,
Thank you. Bruno?
This is like, let's say, there's a broker on the other side of the street that offers with all the agents a package or whatever. That's part of that, their structure. Then it should be on paper, excluding that of the commission. There's nothing to do with the commission now. They want you to put everything in writing and say that that part of whatever the client's gonna pay for is not paying to the commission. But we don't do this because we usually pay for it. Like, we don't charge the client for marketing.
Well, some
But
people
if you
do.
do,
Some people do,
then it's gotta be specified, say the commission's 5%.
but that's no more than it is today. If I'm asking my seller to pay for the photos or what else? Staging, it's supposed to be in writing. And then if you want to pay for it, you want to pay for it up front, it's supposed to be in writing. You're supposed to pay, you say the seller fronts the cost and I'll reimburse you upon completion of a transaction. That's fine too. Put it in writing. No more than it's always been. It's always been. Okay? Any agreements have to be in writing.
So you can attach like an amendment to the listing sheets, listing forms,
Yeah, schedule.
Like a schedule.
Yeah, a schedule.
kind of like a home inspection. So they pay for the home inspection so that we don't know what's in the home inspection, they can use it or not. Which was one of the situations that we
I had.
discussed.
Mhm.
And then if we sell the property, then it's in my schedule that I will reimburse them the home inspection.
Yeah, you absolutely can do that. So, and that would be on a schedule. The only caution I say is, so going forward, that's a good point, B. Going forward, so when the students are here and D's not, I know the other day that they actually did load it. They loaded that type of information into the listing. I just caught it before it went live. But we got to be extra cautious to say to them, do not load this to the listing. That listing schedule should be kept with you.
Of course.
Do not send that to the front desk. That's for your backup, for your protection. The front desk does not need to know that information. Is too much for them, okay? Just send the necessary documents in order to load a listing if you're not loading your own.
But
That listing
you need that information in your files.
for you.
Yes.
No, but you need it as well for the brokerage in case there's an
And you can
issue
give
with
it to
someone
But I'll come to you.
at that point in time. I see.
We just upload the data sheet. Doesn't that have anything on it?
They won't have it on. Yeah, the data sheet wouldn't have it on. The data sheet?
Yeah.
No, the data sheet doesn't have any of those agreements. That's a side agreement you're making.
For the front desk, just
Later.
give the data sheet in. Then we don't even have to worry about the list of agreements.
No, you need to worry about the listing agreement because I want to see the commission.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you're listing something for 2.5% commission, you're offering 2.5% commission. Ooh, not good. Okay, plus I check for signatures and initials and all that stuff. So I look at all the listing agreements. Okay. Okay, are we as good, clear as mud on all of this? Okay, let's move on.
Carole, sorry to trouble you. I just had a quick question. It's Dilip here.
You're not troubling me, honey. Delete?
Hey, yeah, just a quick question, just because we were talking about commissions and listings here. If I have a lease that's up on MLS and like just like how we do with listings that are for sale, we put in the notes that if the property is shown by the seller agent or anyone at the seller agent's office, the commission is reduced by 1%. Now, for a lease, is it okay if it says that it's reduced to $50 if the property is shown by the listing agent or anyone at the listing agent's office?
So that has to be on the listing agreement to be legal.
Okay, so we would
So
just
you can reduce the commission.
Okay,
and that
perfect.
commission, and you can reduce it to whatever you so choose as a listing salesperson. But that agreement has to be in writing and with the listing agreement.
Awesome. So that would be part of Schedule A, I would imagine, then, in the listing agreement?
Yeah, you can make it on a Schedule A or you can write it right on the listing itself. So Dilip's question is, he's got a lease, he's the listing, and he wants to reduce the commission if somebody sends their potential tenant to Dilip to show the property to. And I said, yeah, you can do that, but that cutting commission has to be signed by the landlord. So he knows that you're cutting commission to the potential tenant's agent. Yes, you can do that, Dilip. But it has to be in writing with the listing agreement.
Perfect. In a Schedule A, I imagine, right?
Well, you can do it in a Schedule A or you can in a schedule, or you can write it right on the listing because there always is. I do mine right in the listing. But I mean, if you've got a whole bunch of things that you're changing, then obviously you're going to do a schedule because there's no room on the.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Just listening in and the topic came up, so I thought I'd ask.
Oh, no worries. My pleasure. Okay, self-represented, guys.
What number is that?
2.4. I know we've beat this horse to death. We're going to beat it to death once more time. Self-represented. How are we doing for time? Oh, gee, we're almost there. Okay, so we're going to cut this short. I thought we'd go through more of these, but we haven't. Okay, self-represented. Again, how do you know if they're self-represented? You got to give the RICO information guide. We're going to learn to love that thing right off the bat. And then if they decide to be self-SRPs, then you have to give the disclosure, the version that's from a DR. Designated representative. There's two versions of that. So you have to be careful not to provide the brokerage version, provide the designated representative version. Okay. It talks about that only provide assistance that is in best interest of your client. So you have a listing, somebody comes in after all the paperwork, they decide they want to be an SRP.
Call Mark 7-1.
They want to be an SRP. So if furtherance of the best interest of your client, because it's your listing and you want to get the listing sold, obviously, there's certain information you can give. Like you give factual information to a self-represented. How much does that house down the street sell for? The one up the street? You cannot give any advice, any opinions, anything that's deemed of your knowledge as a realtor. Anything that's public knowledge, you can give it to them. Copy of the listing, here you go. The depth of the lot, here you go. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, here you go. Okay, factual information you can give them. No advice, no opinions, okay? A self-representative is a party who's decided not to hire brokerage, meaning they choose not to benefit from the service and opinions. Page 2, agents must provide the self-represented party with the RICO information and disclosure to self-represented form, along with the information guide before providing any assistance to them. So, as Sue had said, it makes sense. You're at an open house. Either you're going to have a lot of copies of 12 pages each of that RICO information guide. So you got 100 people coming in your open house. You're going to run out of paper really fast. So I would recommend that you get their email and you just whip it over to them. Okay? It makes sense. They've read it, they understand, would you like to be a client or a self-represented party? Okay? Are we good? Liz?
Anything different with, where the client is selling his own property, is like a FISBO? Is there anything we have to do differently than we've done in the past? So I'm bringing the buyer to a FISBO.
Yeah, well, there's other forms for that. Yeah.
Do I have to make sure that I don't have to worry about the fact that the guy's representing himself?
No.
Okay.
No, other than the forms are signed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, no, and the reality is we're going to treat them basically the same.
Okay.
Okay, because right now we don't help the FISBO. We're not supposed to be helping the FISBO.
Yeah.
Okay, but the RICO now says, no, you're not to help them at all. Okay, but I mean, reality is today, I would say that a lot of us have helped for sale by owners. And a lot of us have helped, we have the buyer and we're doing the mirror posting. I know you end up doing both ends of the deal, really, but you're not supposed to.
What happens if you do help them? If there's nothing, they can't take any recourse on you, the person.
Sure they can.
The seller by the.
Sure they can. Come back, you told me this, I relied on it. Yeah, they can.
But we don't have.
You don't have any agency relationship with them, remember? Representation.
Right.
They relied on your
But you-
professional opinion.
Right, but now you've got the self-represented whatever, you can still and say, well, you wanted to represent yourself.
I know, but if you gave them advice and they relied on that advice, they could come back to bite you.
So that's why you're supposed to advise them that it's dangerous to be self-represented, right? And guide them to seek their legal assistance with their
Don't
lawyer.
forget, the consumer can always come back to bite you.
But then they can do that even if they decided to work with you.
100%. That's why it's like being a parent. You're always wrong. You're right, but you're wrong. Okay. So it's just,
Yeah, I didn't get it when you said about open house. Like, we don't have to get everybody who comes to an open house with the bulletin, the RICO information guide, or just whoever is declaring that he wants to.
Only the ones that are
and-
declaring interest.
Yeah.
Yes. If they're otherwise they're just consumers walking through the house.
Yeah. Okay.
okay, but we're all tempted to talk to people when they come in and give them our opinions or advice, stuff that's professional. So you're not supposed to do any of that.
Only about the house, or only just.
Yeah, it's just about the house.
Only the facts. Only the facts.
Facts, Jack. I know. This is the theory. How it's going to work out in the industry, none of us understand that. Like, well, when the BRA first came out, or the Work with a Realty, working in this off, first came out, there was a lot of kerfuffle. Oh, how's this ever going to work out? Bye, Matt. How's it ever going to work out? Oh, nobody's going to sign it, blah, blah, blah. Eventually it worked out in the industry. Okay, it all flowed through. We got comfortable with it. Same thing with all this. We're going to find our way. What's our comfort level? It's going to work out. Okay, so don't fret. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more tutorials, a lot more of these bulletins, oh joy, that are going to come to alert us for all the things that are going to change. And I'm sure things are going to change. This is a very fluid situation right now. And December 1st, as much as is a drop dead date, as far as the act goes, I'm sure there's got to be some give and leeway at RICO for all these things that are going to happen in the industry. There's 92,000 of us running around, and you can bet there's a large portion that are not going to have any clue what's going on. So God help any of us that are trading in the first few months, and you got somebody on the other side who's going to bring you the old forms, and because they got that in their briefcase or at home and they've not clued and they've never been to the office, have no idea what's going on.
What do you do in that case if they bring in?
They can't trade in them.
So you have to.
They're garbage.
do the-
Go back somewhere, wherever you came from, get the proper paperwork. Yeah, and get it right, because that is worth nothing, that paper anymore. As of December 1, it's not going to be worth anything. But you can bet we're all going to run into it as it happened when we've changed forms before and years ago. I remember, and he would come in, one guy came in, he had all the paperwork, and I told him, go home. That offer is worth nothing to me. Go get it on proper paper.
But Carole, did you hear that they are preparing, because obviously whatever you says, whatever we learn, we read is a theory, yes, but it you said, the practice, the life will show different. I was thinking that maybe Rico is supposed to do or track some kind of live, kind of like a video kind of situation, yes? And different
No,
situations.
there's lots of videos, there's lots of these things on Rico, there's lots in AREA. But again, how it's going to work out in the real world, I don't know yet. But one more thing before we all say goodbye is on November 30th at 1:00, AREA is doing another webinar. Julio saw the one last week, was it Julio?
Yeah.
And he said, I think, and Chris Vaughn, I know, saw it. She told me she really liked it. So it's on again, November 30th at 1:00. I'm going to watch it. I recommend we all do. Apparently this presenter from AREA, his name's Ray. And he's much better than Cassandra Walker, thank God.
There's also one December 6th.
And December 6th, there's one December 6th as well. But apparently it brings it into focus what AREA is saying, what all this trust is about.
Is it under AREA? Do we go to AREA to sign up for it?
No, it's TRESA.
Drop?
No, it's AREA.
It's AREA.
It's AREA.
It's AREA.
It's November
They have
30th at
sent
1:00.
emails already about it. And I sent the links already on the.
Andrew?
If we're working on a deal at end of November and sign back state past December 1st.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. If the only difference is will be customers are gone in March. All the rest, if you're working on something now, that'll carry through until it's complete.
Get everybody signed before December 1st.
And if you want to, you can still change over your paperwork. So if you have a listing now, come December 1, you can change it so you're the DR. Okay, so that way you don't have to worry about multiple in your office. It's your call. Okay, I'm leaving that up to you. How you want to handle your biz is your call. As long as you follow the rules, I'm good to go. Okay, everybody, have a good week. We'll see you next Tuesday. Lucky you.
Any questions?
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks, Carole.
New forms?
It's for
Yeah.
centers,
Yeah.
and they are ready for people.
Yeah, AREA has them ready to release, right? So just like the document we saw, remember the doc with all the new forms, the ones that we were.
Hey, Kath, how you doing?
AREA is ready to release them.